Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy Simmons. I'm a graduate student in the experimental psychology program here at Central Washington University. The research I'm working on I call Combating COVID-19 Misinformation on Social Media. Do false information tags work? I want to give a thanks to my faculty mentor and thesis committee chair, Dr. Danielle Polage, and also to my thesis committee members, Drs. Ralph Greenwald and Stephen Shetman. So before I get started, I just want to cover a few things definition-wise. So misinformation, when I'm talking about misinformation, we're referring to false or inaccurate information that's often intended to deceive, but not always. When it is intended to deceive, this would be called disinformation. It's often for political, social, or economic gain. And then along with that is also fake news, which is commonly shared on social media. It's a subset of disinformation. And while the definition can vary depending on who you ask, the most common definition would be that it's fabricated news stories that are deliberately spread to mislead others or grab attention. So why is fake news, misinformation, disinformation, why is it so effective? A big one is confirmation bias, and this is that people tend to favor information that aligns with previous beliefs. So because of this, they may not seek out opposing arguments. Information will be interpreted in a way that will fit their own worldview, and they'll have better memory for details that uphold those beliefs. Also, there's motivated reasoning. So this is that people have a tendency to make decisions about and justify their behaviors or beliefs based on desirability. So what they want or what that makes them uncomfortable. So for example, rejecting climate science data because thinking about the consequences of climate change, it can be uncomfortable and it induces fear. And so this could be a reason why some people will reject climate science information. So what are social media companies doing to stop the spread of misinformation? Well, one way are general warnings. Facebook introduced this onto their website, and it would be a warning at the very top of the page that just kind of warned you that not all information is correct and to keep an eye out. So there has been some research, Clayton et al. In 2020, they found that this general warning, it reduced belief in false information, but unfortunately it was at the expense of reducing belief in true information. Another way that social media companies have been trying to combat the spread is through false information tags. So this is where posts that have been identified by a fact-checking organization as containing false information, they will put a tag on it that will directly say that, like, this information is false. It's been disputed by third-party fact-checkers. This was first introduced on Facebook in 2017, and they used a disputed tag, but they found that it wasn't quite as effective as if telling people outright, like, why or that it was false, and so they changed it to strictly say, false information checked by independent fact checkers. That's what they said, yeah. So there has been research on this particular method of combating information. And Pennycook et al. In 2018, their study, they found that it did work to reduce ratings of accuracy on false information. And this was observed even when the information was concordant or discordant with the participants' beliefs. That's good. The problem is this was only in the moment. When these participants would come back at a later time and then presented with these same social media posts, these same statements, and asked to give their judgment of accuracy, they found that people rated these as more accurate than they did before. This is called the illusory truth effect. So this is where belief in false statements that are repeated tends to increase. So over time, the more that you tell somebody something, even if it's false, even if they know it's false, their belief in it will still continue. So one main question that is not addressed in the current literature is, how does this relate to COVID-19 misinformation? So we talked before about motivated reasoning. So this is the tendency to make decisions and justify your behaviors or beliefs based off of what makes you comfortable, what's desirable. And so this might apply more when we're talking about a global pandemic like COVID-19. because all of the previous research that I've been able to find on this has mostly studied the illusory truth effect with either like trivia questions, innocuous style statements, or through with political questions, so specifically with the 2016 election. So that leads me to my main research questions. How effective are false information tags at reducing belief in COVID-19 misinformation in the moment? And then also, what effect does repeated exposure have on the effectiveness of false information tags in reducing belief in COVID-19 misinformation? So my main hypotheses, the first one is that false statements, if they're accompanied by a false information tag, they will be rated as less accurate than the same information with no tag. Additionally, participants will rate false statements as being more accurate after the second exposure compared to the first, regardless of the presence or absence of false information tags. So in order to test these hypotheses, I am currently recruiting participants. I'm looking for 48 undergraduate students, and I am recruiting them through the SONA system here at Central. The design will be a 4x2 mixed method design. For the within subjects variable, that would be the ratings between the first session and the second session. And then for the between subjects groups would be the presence or absence of false information tags. So all participants will be either randomly assigned to see tags on the information that's false or not. And that random choice will be in the first and the second. So this produces 4 groups. You can have tags in neither section, tags in the first session only, tags in the second session only, or tags in both sessions. And so what I will be measuring is how they rate the statements as accurate. And then I'll be comparing that between the first and the second session, and then also between statements that were flagged or not. So for my materials, I found 36 true and false statements from politifact.com. It's a fact-checking organization that some social media companies use right now. I selected 12 of these statements to be target statements. These will be shown in both sessions, and then 24 non-repeated statements. So 12 of those will be in the first session and then 12 in the second. So there's only 12 that are repeating between the 2 sessions. In addition, those statements will be presented as a social media post, as you might see on like Facebook. And I have an example of it here on the poster. So the first one has no tag, and the second has the tag. So for measures, I will be asking participants how likely they would be to like or share each post on social media on a Likert scale from 1 to 5. For accuracy, I will ask participants how accurate they would rate the statement in the post as being on a Likert scale from 1 to 6, with 1 being very inaccurate and a 6 being very accurate. Additionally, I will be presenting participants with some questionnaires during the first session, including a questionnaire that asks about their level of fear of COVID-19, how well they comply with infection prevention guidelines, their political party affiliation, and their social media use habits. If I obtain the results that I'm anticipating, this would suggest that false information tags are not enough to fully combat the spread of misinformation over long periods of time. While sure, it works in the moment, the more that information is repeated, the more likely that people are going to believe it, they're going to share it more. Additionally, this would add to the growing body of research that suggests that the illusory truth effect holds even with implausible statements. Most of the previous research, as I've mentioned, dealt with, trivia, just simply innocuous statements, and as well seemed to work for political statements. But we're talking about a global pandemic, something that affects people individually. And so if we see these results, this will add even more to that body of research. I believe that future research should truly investigate other strategies to reduce the spread and belief of misinformation on social media. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Source. Thanks.